guys hear me? All right. Oh man, those lights, no joke. Oh man, thank you guys for your attention. And so, even before I get started here today, I gotta ask, like Brian, or I can't see anybody. That's or any of the speakers. What's the over/under on how long I'm gonna go? You guys know why they put me last, right? You don't trust me on time.
I know.
Not even a little bit. Not even a little bit. So, guys, a lot's happened since the last time I spoke on stage, and this weekend, what I really was thinking about was what would be the most impactful thing that I could share with y'all. And there was a couple ideas, but really, as I look back over the last year in terms of what I've done, in terms of helping other businesses transform, really the thing that's been the most impactful that I've been able to share is how to tell stories, how to integrate them into your business. And so that's what I'm gonna share with you guys today. We're gonna go through, first off, an example of how to tell stories. Then I'm gonna break it down and I'm gonna show you why I do certain things when, so that you can take these lessons home with you and apply it to your own business. Because I remember, the reason why this is such a big thing, I for years heard people say to me, your story's so powerful, right? They would say, man, you just gotta tell your story. But no one ever told you how to do it, right? Like, has anyone ever told you physically how to tell your story? Right? So, I put my, let's call them workman glasses on or whatever, and over the last couple of years, I've really just dug into this whole topic of storytelling. So, the reason that this is gonna be such an important thing, first off, from my standpoint to you, is I really think we're growing blind to things like sales pitches, right? But you can do the same thing even better by telling the story in the right way. I mean, if you can imagine what it's like, and here's what's happened to me most recently. Right before I got married, Kim is in here somewhere, I don't know where she is, but I got married September 1st.
Happy Mardi Gras!
Class. My friend asked me, like, people asked me, said, hey Daegan, you know, what's it like now you're married? And my friend Tony gave me the best analogy. He's like, man, Daegan, you know, I feel like you went from like big Mario to little Mario. So, nah, I joke. Right before I got married, we really hit this storytelling thing. Oh man, we really dialed it and hit a home run with it. I didn't expect this to happen, but we, in the span of about 2 days, shared one story that turned into $300,000. Yeah. Could you imagine? Right? I was wherever Jason is, Jason Gazaway is in the back, he works with me, there he is. He runs our advertising agency, the home business agency, so if you guys need traffic, Jason's your man. But I remember saying to Jason, yo, Jason, let's give this sucker a shot. And it was after we tweaked and curtailed, and it absolutely blew me away, the sort of results that we could get removing selling, not selling, just telling the right story. So, would you guys like to know how to do that too?
Yes, sir.
Cool. So, first off, so I can get a feel, because I haven't had a chance to see everyone's presentation. What are the biggest things that you guys have learned so far? What are you taking home with you? You gotta have a passion, no doubt. What else? Consistency, mindset. Give value. What is value? People, that's another one of those things. Tell your story. How do you do it? Give value. What does that mean? Solve problems. That's value, yeah.
Education.
Really what value is at the end of the day, from our standpoint, if we want to think about our standpoint, and this is just my perspective on that, because I've pondered this question a lot, it's keeping people entertained. If we keep people entertained, then we have their attention, and we have the value of their attention. So, if you want to think about what value is for you as the business owner, it's that, keeping the person's attention. And that's what, I guess, the result of giving value does for you in your business. You know how people talk about giving free content and just give a lot of free content and all that sort of stuff? I'm down for it. I give lots of free stuff, but I know what it does. It buys people's attention. It doesn't give you money, but it strategically gives you the opportunity to get sales for the group. So, what else? No, nothing else? You guys haven't learned anything else? Have a funnel? All right. Have a plan? Cool. Partner up. I'm like 50-50 on that one. I'll tell you a little bit about my story about why I don't know if I necessarily like partnerships. So, what do I want to do in here? I've been at this stuff for 8 or 9 years now, and I love it more now than I did when I started. It's been an amazing ride, and I've been humbled by those of you that have come up to me and shared a little bit about one thing here or there. Somehow I didn't even know, helped you achieve success. So those of you guys that have come up to me, I don't even know how to respond to that stuff. It just is like, if you can imagine finding like a magnificent obsession one day, having no idea where it's going to take you, and then blinking an eye and having a bunch of people say, man, you're the reason why I made $1 million last year. Cool, you don't know how to respond to that. So for all you guys that have shared your stories with me, I really appreciate it. And at the end, I'm going to give you guys, actually, I'm going to do something cool. If I can remember it, let me start with this. In business, why do people fail? Why do they fail? There's lots of different answers, but I want to answer this question with a little bit about myself that I don't think I've shared before, that might give you a little bit of insight on why I think ultimately we fail when we do. When I was a young kid, let's say, actually I don't like being on stage all the time with all this right way. When I was a young kid, in the 6th grade, I weighed about 190 pounds. I was about that tall, right? It's a little chunky guy. I had bra-worthy boobs, right? Bra-worthy boobs. And my father, at the school that I went to, we had to choose a few sports to play. And we had to, it was mandatory. So he chose for me football, wrestling, and lacrosse, growing up in D.C. And out of the 3, the one as a 190-pound 6th grader with man boobs that I really loathed the most was a sport called wrestling. Because no one's that self-confident, right? When you're freaking, 12, 11, whatever you are in the 6th grade, and all of a sudden you're wearing some, leotard thing in front of a bunch of people, your little man boob nipple hanging out on the side. That's not cool. No one likes that. And so I grew to not enjoy this sport called wrestling, but I had to do it. So I think it's like a lot of things in life. It's interesting how something that you might not like at all, you can grow to love. By the time I was in the 9th grade, I had lost a little bit of my little baby weight, and I remember it was my first year on the high school wrestling team. On the team, there was this guy, his name was Eugene Burdetsky. He was a senior. He wrestled at 171, and he was like the coolest cat in the world. Like, I saw this guy every single match. He would just go out there and be like, go like that or something, and it looked effortless. And the dude would be like on the ground paying. At the end of this year, that year, he was a national champion, and he was named to the Washington, D.C. All-Met team. And I don't know what it was about this, but I just saw this guy, and I wanted to do like him. And so, for me, with this thing that I hated called wrestling that made me feel insignificant and uncomfortable about myself, finding this sort of role model, this sort of curiosity, what would it be like to be that good, was enough to send me off in a direction searching. And long and short of that story is, at the end of my senior year, I practiced harder than everyone else on the team. I would go to camps, and I was actually like a nerd. I would go to wrestling camps and take notes, and read my notes at night and all this for wrestling, right? It's weird. At the end of all that, I actually ended up achieving my dream of being like this guy Eugene, which to me meant being all-Met in Washington, D.C. So thank you guys, by the way, for indulging my Al Bundy Married with Children moment. You know what I mean? And remember when I got called to the principal's office where they told me about this, right? I think I was in history class or something like that, and they're like, Daegan, get to the principal's office. And I thought I'd gotten into trouble again. I was kind of pissed. But I walked into that office, and our assistant coach, Mr. Bunning, was in there, and he said, congratulations on that, Daegan. And for me, this was the first achievement of any dream that meant anything to me. And if you've ever achieved anything, I mean, for me, I was floating on air, and I walked out of that room, and I don't even think my feet touched the mat. I was just like going. And I'll remember that moment for the rest of my life in terms of finding a curiosity, desiring something, and putting in hard work to get it. The first thing I ever fell in love with doing. But during that year, I didn't win every match. I probably lost 4 or 5. And at the end of the year, I was ranked number 3 in the state, and I got to wrestle the guy that was number 1 in an all-star match. And I remember thinking to myself, this is it. This is my chance. I'm going to demolish this guy better than him, and I was better than him by my estimation. Warmed up, got out on the mat. The ref blew the whistle, and we started wrestling. I took this dude down, so I won't get into all the crazy wrestling stuff, but boom, boom, I took him down. Let him up, right? Same thing again, boom, boom, let him down, took him down, let him up. Then I went to take him down a different way, and he headlined. And I can remember, as I was going down to the ground, thinking, I knew this was going to happen. I knew it. And I let myself get pinned. The reason that I lost when I lost, it was because I looked at the other person that I was going to wrestle, and I let myself become intimidated by him. This guy's good. He might be better than me. It would create this sort of fear. I'd get out on the mat, and then one thing would go wrong, and then all of a sudden, my worst fears were realized. Well, after this match, it was like I betrayed myself. It really felt like I'd given everything I had, but somewhere in my head, I couldn't let myself be good. So even though I wrestled in college afterwards, I distanced myself from the emotional attachment I had with wrestling. And as a result, I really couldn't fall back in love again. And it was like this huge void in my life, right? I couldn't get it back no matter what I tried. And nothing else was like this sort of love. It wasn't until I found the internet that I felt this feeling come back. Now, before I get to that, the question that I said was, why do people fail? I read a quote in a book that's pretty good on why people fail, and this is ultimately why I think people fail. So this is a book called The 50th Law by 50 Cent and Robert Greene. You read it? It's a good book. I mean, you guys should pick it up. Turn your shit into sugar. It's a good chapter. Here's what 50 Cent says. The greatest fear people have is that of being themselves. They don't want to be 50 Cent. No, excuse me. They want to be 50 Cent or someone else. They do what everyone else does, even if it doesn't fit where and who they are. But you get nowhere that way. Your energy is weak, and no one pays attention to you. You're running away from the one thing that you own, what makes you different. I lost that fear, and once I felt the power that I had by showing the world I didn't care about being like other people, I can never go back. People fail because ultimately, I believe we fear being ourselves. We fear just letting people know who we really are, if we want to take it to a personal level. We let it intimidate us, we let it get us out of the game. And well, what I found with storytelling is that what happens once you understand how to leverage stories, and you'll learn as I'll share a little bit of my story, is that in learning to do so, you eliminate that fear. Because in order to tell your story in the truest form, you've got to just be you, right? And once you get there, it's a life-changing moment. And the cool thing is, everyone in here has their own unique story. Everyone in here has the ability to impact someone else. I have no idea how I've impacted people, but I think it's probably a little bit to do with just sharing my story from whoever the heck I am this day, right? So, drink of water, I'm parched. 34 minutes left. So, why storytelling as it relates to marketing? The reason you want to tell stories, and I didn't get it until I really started studying this stuff, the reason that you want to tell your story instead of trying to sell to people, I remember I got it when I was watching, have you guys seen the movie X-Men First Class? Right? Do you remember the part when Magneto was a little kid and his parents got ripped away from him when he was in, where were they, Austria or Poland? Okay. Yeah, they were in Poland. And he reaches out, and you can feel that sort of, that emotion, right? That moment, I was young Magneto, right? I wasn't Daegan anymore. I was this story. So from our standpoint, can you see how powerful that is? From the standpoint of why the music industry or movie industry makes so much money, when magnificent stories are told, it's the only time we get to get outside of ourselves, right? So we can use this to transmit emotions, to entertain, and ultimately create a level of trust that's past what we think about as trust, in my opinion. I call it more identification. Because if I'm watching X-Men First Class, and I feel what Magneto feels, I don't just trust, I am. Can you guys see how powerful that is? If you can get people, if you can help people to feel what you feel, the transformations that you've had, in the right way, in the right story, they'll ultimately feel it and be persuaded in the most powerful way, because it won't be you, it will be themselves. Why storytelling now? The reason that this is so important now is honestly because I think it's just someone that loves this stuff and is always studying, looking into how things are changing on a very intimate level and what trends are going on. Selling, the way that it's been done traditionally, isn't where it's at. Even with email marketing. I mean, there's a lot of people that give a lot of good content, right? But what I find is the email list that I stick on for the longest period of time is the ones where I'm learning a little bit more about that person's story in a cool way that's leading me to something that I might want. So in other words, why now? The reason now for storytelling is because if you don't do it now, then when? I spent hundreds of thousands of dollars on copy stuff, right? And as you'll learn in a little bit, when I tested all that knowledge, experience, and money spent versus simply telling a story, it didn't hold up a candle. Storytelling is pretty powerful. So, let me jump through this, and I'm going to try to do this so quickly. Oh, this is going to be tough. Let me tell you my story about storytelling. I'll jump back into where we were. I told you I didn't find my love again until I got back, and until I found this internet thing. Wrestling, I had a void because I took my own power back by being intimidated, felt betrayed. And I couldn't get it back until I ended up in a hotel room just like this. It was in a Holiday Inn in D.C., Bethesda, Maryland, right outside of D.C. And the first thing that I remember, first of all, the way that I got there is like how most of us get places in life. Like, there's some pain. I didn't like the job I had. I had an intense moment of high anxiety. I was in the shower, and I said, I can't do this for the rest of my life. And so I started watching infomercials. And one said, go to Holiday Inn and learn how to become a real estate millionaire. And you saw someone that was uglier, fatter, just not as smart as you, holding up big old checks. And you're like, yeah, come on, man, I can do this. So I take my ass over to the Daegan, and as soon as I get in there, I regret the decision because you can just smell sort of desperation in the air, right? And you're like, oh man, who are these people? Who shows up at these suckers? And so I'm like, I hope no one sees me. I sit in the very back row, you were sitting right there, went out right behind me, and I look up, I remember my high school lacrosse coach was in that room too. I was like, man, I know he was desperate. Look at this. All right. But I didn't let him see me. I didn't let him see me. First thing I remember is the first guy that got up on stage, he shared this amazing story, and literally 100 people, the room was just like this almost. 100 of them, when he said, go and buy his thing, they went and bought it. $997 each. How much is that? $100,000, right? Not bad. 1 hour, one story, $100,000. I didn't quite get it then, but if you tell the right story, you can't really go broke. Now, there was a guy, his story didn't connect with me, but there was a guy that came on afterwards, a little short, fat little guy that talked about the internet instead of real estate stuff. And this was one of those moments where, you know, when you're talking to someone, you feel like you're just like literally speaking directly to you. And my eyes were like zoned in, my ears were like, I didn't know that this stuff existed. It was that whole magnificent obsession, this curiosity, this desire that was born in me once again. And I remember I went home immediately after and started searching the internet for all sorts of weird stuff, how to make money. And I knew that this was like a different sort of a world than like the regular world, because the first book I found was this book called Google Cash. I need some more water. Which one of these waters is mine? Because I keep drinking. I have no idea, right? The one in the very back? All right. No idea. I know he's about joking. I'm gonna put it over here. And it was a different world because I went online. The first book I was going to buy was called Google Cash. And this book cost $67. Regular book don't cost $67, especially one that's made out of thin air. A PDF? Come on, man. 67 bucks? I remember sitting there looking at this freaking sales letter for like 3 hours. It took me 3 hours to buy it. But I did. Hook, line, and sinker. I was in. Another cool thing about stories, just to throw this in as I think about it, one person's story might not be the one that affects you, but another's might. So what if that one person whose story could affect you doesn't tell it, right? What if that little fat dog guy hadn't impacted you? You gotta tell your story. Anyway, buy this book, I start doing all this weird stuff online, make a little bit of money here and there, but nothing successful to speak of. I remember getting involved in those like high yield investment programs. Remember, like you put in, you wire your money to eGold. Yeah, you know. I mean, I remember like I would get a credit card and I would wire money from my credit card to eGold because I wanted to get 10% or 8% a day. And then like 10 days in, all my money would be gone to the website. And I would do it again. I was like, no, man, I'm gonna get some this time. Get in early. Yeah, get in early. I just didn't get in early enough that first time, right? And so, whatever mistakes you guys have gone through, I probably made some dumb ones too, right? And so, during this period, I'm learning the rules, figuring out this whole new world. It is like coming into a new world. I spoke to a lot of people and they're like, I'm brand new, and like, you know, just like a deer in headlights. It's a new world, it's different. It's different. I remember when I found network marketing in 26 minutes, started to apply storytelling, or not storytelling, tried to use the internet for network marketing. First thing I did was I tried to buy the leads. I got involved with the sponsor that said, buy leads online. I bought them, and all I did was get rejected. Rejected. $7,000 later, 7 months down the road, a lot of pain, not a single recruit talking to people on the phone. Not for me. I respect anyone that's good at it, honestly. But here's what happened. I found this opportunity that fit me the way I wanted to grow my business at that point. It was called Success University. It's not in business anymore, but it was started by a guy named Matt Morris, a good friend of mine now. And I remember when I saw it, what compelled me the most to get involved, I knew the marketing system was right, but it was his story. I still remember it. He grew up, his dad committed suicide, he grew up in a trailer park, and he got himself involved in personal development and became a successful marketer. Now he wanted to bring that to people too. And that got me in. As soon as I got in, I remember I went to a forum called the Warrior Forum and placed what was called a solo ad, which is just you give someone who has a mailing list some money, and they send out an email for you. The next day, or whatever day it was that ad went out, whatever it was, I remember going to work and coming back home, and from this $30 that I spent, I had like 80 leads and like 11 people that had joined my business. Fast forward, that's pretty cool, right? $30, I'll take it. $7,000 in 7 months or $30 in a couple of days, and you're not even around. You just, oh, there they are. Here's one of the cool things. Jason in the back, I met Jason, and Jason has helped me tremendously with my own business, and he actually was the first person that taught me how to create an info product way back in 2004. I met him because he joined our opportunity through someone that came from that very first solo ad. And I work with him every day. So this marketing stuff is pretty cool in terms of how the connections come about. It wasn't long before I was making more than I did at my regular job with that opportunity. And so what I learned, the first real lesson about storytelling and online stuff is, first thing you should do, if you leverage someone else's story and it's good enough, it'll replace your income, it'll get you out of your job. So leverage someone else's story at the beginning. I remember things continued on. I ended up creating my very first product. It was called Internet MLM Success with Jason's help. Thank you, sir. And it was basically just me telling my story as I was growing that business and all the stuff that I did. And I remember the very first time that I placed like a little pay-per-click ad and someone bought the thing. It was one of those moments where the only way I can describe it is the moment I felt when I met young Kim. I said, oh, this is someone I might marry. You know, at first of all, I was excited. I was like, man, this chick's pretty hot. She's looking at hang out with me? And she said, yes. This first sale came in, it was like, whoa, some person I don't know from around the world bought a product from me because of my story or whatever it was, and gave me $97. What it did for me more than the money, sharing my own story, was it changed my mindset. Because I said to myself, what if I could do that 3 times a day? That's $300 a day. It's like a 6-figure income. How bad, right? All right. So, leveraging someone else's story will get you out of your job, but on your own, it'll change your life. It'll change how you think. It really will. So I ended up at another seminar not too long after that in DC called the Underground Online Seminar. This guy named John Elias gets up on stage and starts talking about email marketing and how he used it to take a little tiny idea and turn it into $1 million business in, I don't know, 18 to 24 months. And the way he spoke about email blew me away compared to what everyone else said. He said, send 2 emails per day and be an attractive character. And just tell stories and be cool. I took that lesson home, and within a month, I doubled my income just from telling stories via email twice a day. So a story by email a day will double your income. Another good thing. Now, the other thing that John did for me on stage was he said, Daegan, or not, I felt like he was talking just to me. He said, I'll offer anyone here a day of private consulting. Cost $10,000. Biggest amount of money I ever spent for anything so esoteric. I should use that word. Something so intangible. Ever. And you can't go to your friends, your family, and say, oh, do you think I should do this thing? No. Spend $10,000 for one day? They're all going to call you crazy. Sparing the drama of how I got to actually make the decision, I'm happy that I did, because what this guy showed me about the back end of the business totally revolutionized what I was doing. So many guys that I spoke to, one of the questions that you asked was, we're starting to have some success, how do I scale it to the next level? The first thing that you do after you have a product and you've telling your own story is create a higher ticket one. So if you've got a few hundred customers right now, create a $500 product that will help them to a great degree. And I pretty much guarantee you're going to have at least your first 5-figure month, probably 5-figure week. Simple as that. So that was one of the lessons I took home. And the next month, that $10,000 investment quadrupled my income. So I went from like $4,000 in sales to $8,000 doing emails, and then adding this high ticket thing, now at 24. Worth it, right? Water. 19 minutes. So, I wanted to be, it was like this guy, Eugene. After I learned what Matt or what John had done, I wanted to be like him. I wanted to build this $1 million business that created sustainable income, and that really became my goal from that point after. The first thing that I did was I created a system called Power Prospecting System, which, again, all it did was leverage my story. I took what was working for me with my products, and I said, hey guys, you can use this too. Just use my story, and I'll give you a commission. I looked and I thought about this part of my story as I was thinking about this yesterday. Some of today's leaders, like Ray and Fernie, were in that system. Tracy Walker, if you guys have heard her. Jonathan Budd, they were all users of that system. Back in the day, I'm like a grandfather, right? Letting other people leverage your story, you become the catalyst for a lot of success stories. It's a powerful thing. So you leverage someone else's story, you leverage your own, then you let others leverage yours, and things go to the next level. In respect to the time, I'm going to fast forward a little bit. I created a business called Recruit Like Crazy. It's my first $1 million year. And had some issues with my merchant account. Business gets taken away from me completely, okay? I had to start from scratch. The problem that I had is not every $1 million business is a good business, right? You want to create the right level of income for yourself, but with the right customers. Totally chose the wrong customers with that business at that time. I went back though, and I chose a better customer. That was the beginning of my website and my coaching program called Maximum Leverage. And here's what happened. It took me about 13 or 14 months to get to the point where we had done over $1 million with Recruit Like Crazy, choosing better people to tell a more specific story that spoke directly to them too. We did it with Maximum Leverage in 5 months. We went from 0 to $128,000 per month in 5 months. Tell a better story, and you'll build success faster, right? So I feel high up on my horse, and I decide to move to Maui. I call Kim, I'm at a seminar, I'm like, Kim, let's move to Maui. And she's like, what? No. But my powerful negotiating skills allow me to get her to come and live in the beautiful island of Maui. Halfway through, man, it was beautiful. We were having businesses growing tremendously, but, life changes, we have our ups and downs. The next mistake that happened for me in my business is I didn't create a stable base. I was getting traffic from only one place, for the most part. I had a little bit of traffic elsewhere. What happened is that traffic got taken away, and my business dwindled out to almost nothing, and I didn't think I'd be a person that would get depressed or go into that sort of state, but man, you can ask him. All I did was wake up in like a panic state for like 6 months. Every day is what I did. Drive to the corner store, buy a pack of Newports with a Red Bull, smoke half those Newports with my Red Bull, drive home. So on the other half, halfway through the day, buy some more cigarettes. I didn't think I'd be like addicted to cigarettes either, but this blow hit me hard anyway. Fast forwarding more, so we can get to the important stuff here. I figured out, I fixed my business. In life, it's good. There's a chapter in that book called Turning Shit into Sugar, and you should read it because it's a very powerful idea in that what it says is when things get taken away from you and you have nothing, this is where your eyes really open, and you can see the opportunity that was already around you. So if you're starting from nothing, I'm happy for you. You can see more than anyone else in this room. You got better eyes and more clarity. I got myself back in the game. We moved back to Washington, D.C., and then I got this notice from the IRS. Before that, let me just say this real quick. It was literally 1 month. I was at literally the point of no return. I had $30,000 in the business bank account and about $30,000 in business expenses. It's magical how, like, when we're right at the end, we figure something out. But I figured it out and went back home to D.C., and as soon as I got home, I got this letter in the mail from the IRS saying, "Congratulations, Daegan, you owe us $983,000. Prove that you don't, or send us a check in a week." Not fun, right? What do you do? And I think that was probably right before we lived the dream event. And so, if you can kind of imagine the state of mind a person might be in, having gone through some battles, ups and downs, and getting that letter and then coming up here on stage and sharing your story of success, and that you might have the IRS like $1 million, right? I was a little bit torn up the last time I spoke here, and I went through my head, I went through all the different things that I had tried to build this stable business, and the one thing that I hadn't done was just straight up told my story truly. The way that I'm doing it, hopefully now, is, do I feel like I'm pretty much just telling you? Okay. It wasn't easy. I remember, take a deep breath, I had to listen to Lionel Richie Zoom like 3 or 4 times to get me energized and abundant. But I came out here and I just kind of told my story. And what happened was, at the end of that presentation, I think I had sold more stuff than anyone else, right? By just telling my story, good, bad, and ugly. And what also happened, though, was I remember this vividly, whoever Ray is. Ray Hickton came up to me and was like, "Daegan, I don't know what you got, man, but I'm buying that thing." People come, it's just, when you tell your story, it creates this just almost magical attraction. When you learn to tell your true story, it really does set you free, because you gain the power that I shared with you right there. You have to just be yourself. That's what this stuff is all about. We still have the tax debt, the tax bill is, so if I had time, I'll tell you what happened with all that, but we still had that to deal with, and I knew after this experience, the storytelling, somewhere in there was what I needed to focus on and change. I went back home, I bought 1,001 books, tested 1,001 different things, and I can remember at another event, I was hanging out with a friend, Russell Brunson, the guy that recommended that book to me. We were talking about marketing stuff, and we're both, addicted to this marketing stuff. We're like, and we were eating lunch, and we forgot to pay the bill. We ended up back in the seminar room, like, who paid that bill? I was like, I didn't, did you? No. Felt guilty. We ran back, paid the bill, and it was right there that I had this insight. I said to myself, what if I could use a story to do exactly what just happened to me? I felt so guilty about not paying for this meal because I've been trained to, right? I have food that's adequate, you gotta pay for it. If value is given and you feel the value, you feel obliged to pay. So I went back home and I removed what I normally had was, I would tell better stories via email. But this time I decided to, instead of just telling better stories, use an approach where I would just straight up tell stories but remove all the sales process. As a result, we sold not just more than with all this copy expertise and whatnot, but at a higher price, and customers were happier. By removing selling, we sold more. Sounds ironic, right? But we just use storytelling. Because stories that you create desire if you know how to do it right. And that's why it works. Since then, we sped up the process, did it a ton more. And then I started teaching other people how to do this. And it was cool to see other people's results. Like Jonathan Register, wherever he is. I would do these higher ticket workshops. And for this process, and we'd work on people's stories. And Jonathan, wherever he is, there he is. He came from Newport News, or in Newport News, Virginia, up to DC, and we worked on his story. And I remember, he's a good guy. You guys will hang out with him later. He went home and ended up using this whole process the first time and making like $18,000. So, one person. Had this internet marketer, Greg Davis, guy made $60,000 a day. It's not like uncommon. He came to this little workshop and learned the storytelling stuff. What I'm about to flip this thing over and share with you right now for free. And they paid a lot of money to learn this stuff. And I caught up with him a little bit later at another event after, because he was looking at me the whole event. Like, he's like, yeah, man, what are you going to tell me? I know more than you, right? And he was like, man, Daegan, when I use this story stuff, people email me to tell me to email them more. I love this stuff, man. I made like $80,000 so far, man. You should be charging way more than whatever you're charging. So it's cool that the experts appreciate what you're doing too. A guy named Carlos from Mexico. We got his story all worked out. He ended up having his first $15,000 day. But my favorite story of them all, as it relates to this stuff, I got 8 minutes. My favorite story as it relates to this of them all is a guy named Matthias. Matthias sells in the French marketplace, and he took this storytelling stuff to the next level. I got an email from him a couple of days ago, and he was like, Daegan, man, he was having some success. He said, man, we just took it to the next level. What I'm doing now, if I don't even tell my story, I train somebody else to tell my story, and when they do their webinars and they do this storytelling deal, then I actually make more money when they do it than when I do it myself. Right now we're doing 2 to 4 $2,500 sales per day. Not bad, right? So let someone else tell your story and go ahead and get rich, right? So let me show you guys how to do this storytelling thing. Let me first give you this last piece of information. Now, I might go over like a couple of minutes, but I won't for too long. And I have no big pitch that I'm going to give you. I'm actually going to give you guys money at the end of this. So, you guys want money?
Yeah.
All right. What did you say? Before I get into showing this, here's the deal. As we were testing this stuff, I started this whole thing with the idea that we just hit this major breakthrough. And that breakthrough came right before I got married. We had this $300,000 event out of the blue, just by telling the story. And the way that we did that was, instead of using emails to tell the story, all we did was, because I didn't have time, I just wanted to do it real quick, we sent out an email to invite people to a live webinar. No selling, just telling the story. And this quadrupled results from our former attempts at storytelling. So it's very rare in life when you learn something that when you put more leverage around it, make it easier, make it more interactive, get people in one place at one time, it takes you less effort, that you get paid 4 times in terms of rewards. So this storytelling stuff is like that. Do you guys get why storytelling is probably something to do? Okay. So, turn this around. And I apologize for not being more interactive than looking at that clock. Here is the great storytelling board of fame. Huh? Yeah, I'll leave it. I mean, it's scribbly, so you guys will get some of it. Hopefully, all right, good. They'll put it up on the board there. Yeah, I don't know. Afterwards, ask me about it in some way, shape, or form. Maybe I can get you some semblance of these notes. Here's the deal. What a story really does is this. If you can imagine your prospect as a little guy that's lethargic, he's home, right? This is what we hear about in terms of how to think about your prospect. He has some pain, but not enough to make him move. He has some desire, but not enough to make him take action. If we tell the right story, what ends up happening is we turn the pain up, the thermometer, all the way up to full. And we turn the desire thermometer all the way up to full as well. And the way that we do this is counter to what we would normally do if we were selling. Persuading is about, if we're talking about sales persuasion, it's a very forceful thing, right? Do you guys feel good when you're like, buy my thing right now? No? No, neither do I. Recruit, join my business, right? Storytelling is the opposite. What I've learned is you cannot push a person to have a new belief. And this is what we try to do when we're persuading. We're pushing. It's like, no, you gotta believe what I believe. Don't you get it? What we can do, which is almost magic, is we can help a person to have an epiphany. If we can help a person to have an epiphany, we can only do that through telling a story the right way. What happens is, it's like you throw a good idea up in the air. Let's imagine it's a basketball or something. I can't give you my idea, but I can throw it up in the air. And if you're near me, and you see it, you might catch it. And when you do, I just hope you have an epiphany. Imagine epiphany as a seed of desire. When you have a seed, you plant it, right? You nurture it, and it grows. What happens when that seedling turns into a full-fledged tree? The desire is stronger, right? So what ends up happening in the mind of your prospect is they move to action as opposed to you pushing them to action. Now this is conceptual, but does it make sense? Yeah. Okay? So the most important thing that I can show you right now with our limited time is the epiphany. And I'm going to go over because I'm going to show you more than this. But I want to show you how to create an epiphany. This is really the most important thing I can give you. It's not in any books. How to figure it out. Ultimately, whenever we see a movie, there's always a moment where we feel like the hero can't win. Like everything is against that person, and we have no idea how they're going to get out of it. It's a very high common place to be. When we want to help a person have a new idea, we want to first start with a situation of extreme drama like this. Mortal drama, maybe, in the sense of something metaphorically dying, so that some new thing maybe can begin. Always at that moment, this is literally the most critical moment right here. Always at that moment, something happens. Something simple, right? Maybe the person remembers the advice of a mentor, like I remember in Bloodsport. You guys seen Bloodsport? You know when the dude throws the stuff in his eyes and he can't fight, but then all of a sudden he calms himself down and he remembers fighting without his eyes. Something like that happens. And then things get better. The way that we do this in marketing, the way that you guys do this, is you take a situation in your life that's really low, high drama, almost insurmountable. You tell your audience why there's no way over this wall, under this wall, around or through, so they get it. This is impossible. Then you share that something simple happened. And that simple thing
led to great results or something changing. All the person will want to do at that moment is know what that simple thing is. That's the moment of epiphany, if we do it right. We're creating dramatic intent in a moment in time. So an example of this, now I'm going to go over maybe, can I have 5 extra minutes?
Why not?
You guys like this stuff? Is this cool? Here's an example. I have a product, it's called perpetual duplication. It's about running co-ops and stuff like this. And here's how it goes. There I was sitting in the car with my boss, and I could see it in his eyes that my days were numbered. I could see that it was only a matter of time before I was going to get fired. I remember that day we went to a couple of doctor's offices. And I was a pharmaceutical sales rep, so I shared that part of the story for brevity, not doing that. I remember going into the doctor's offices, not having the best day, and just knowing that my time was almost up. We drive out of these appointments at the end of the day, and just sheer silence is in the car. He pulls me over. He says, "Daegan, pull over." Pull over, we get out of the car, and I know that this is it. And he says, "Daegan, you don't really care about this job, do you? This isn't you. You're not into this." And I respond back to him with, "No, I'm in it to win it." Now, knowing inside of my own head that this is the only thing I have, right? So, of course you want your job. It's like fighting for something you need, not something that you want. And he could see it and sense it too. We parted ways, and I knew that, my days were very numbered. Not in the best of moods. I always remembered that I didn't know what to do with my future, but I always remembered that if I was in a bad mood, what I should do is not try to push that feeling away, but replace it. So I popped in one of my favorite personal development CDs. And this is a CD that I probably listened to 20 or 30 times. But this time, I heard something different. I heard one word that would change everything. See, not long before that, I had started my first home business, and I was just seeing a little bit of success. But my problem was, there was no way I was going to be able to grow this home business fast enough to replace this job that was about to be gone. I couldn't figure out how to do it, and the reason was I couldn't bring in leads fast enough to get the growth that would create duplication with my small budget. And I couldn't figure out how to fix this until I heard this one word. This one word would soon be the cause of me creating an unending budget, advertising budget, and a team of over 8,000 people that, guess what, my boss later joined, the guy that fired me. And I know as an absolute fact that one word will be the key to your success, the key to your duplication too. Now you guys want to know what that one word is, right? This is how we create the epiphany. Co-ops. This one word was so powerful that I got out of my car and I started racing back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Just the ideas were going back in my head. With a co-op, what I'd be able to do is our team, we'd be able to put our money together, and then my own budget wouldn't even matter. With the co-op, we'd be able to grow faster than we ever had before. But I remember thinking this. I must have looked like a loon, sitting there at that gas station. I remember thinking this, just as I was there, what if it doesn't work? If it doesn't work, what if it doesn't work? What if this is like everything else you've tried? I'm so glad that I didn't let that little idea stop me. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know how to do it. But I decided to just go home that night and send an email out to my team and say, let's do this together. I forgot about it and went to sleep, and I woke up the next morning, and that next morning, I had over $800 that was sent to me for this co-op fund. And that was when I knew everything was going to change. And I would carry the whole thing out. We don't have time for it. But that is how you create a moment of epiphany. You take a situation of high drama, share with people that you're facing a situation. You guys in the back get this?
that can't be overcome. You can't see any way around it, under it, over it, or through it. But something happens. Maybe it's advice from a mentor. Maybe like Carlos. Carlos, part of his story was he was in prison for, we don't have time to get into why. It wasn't his fault though. And it was the lowest moment of his life, and he didn't know what to do, and he pulled out a piece of paper, and on that paper was a solution. Something simple like that, right? We can all remember a moment like that. And if we can do that, we can throw that ball in there for other people to catch it. So what that epiphany needs to be, so you guys get this, and the point is done, I'm going to end in just a second here, is something that leads people to the logical conclusion to wanting to work with you. If I was trying to recruit people, what I might have is a moment of epiphany. It might be that co-op thing, right? Because if you join with me, you'll get to take part in my co-op. All right. Guys, I would go on. I could go on for this stuff all day. Was this valuable, what I did go through for you? The only thing I want to share with you guys is, would you guys like a free $20 Amazon gift card? Yeah? So right now I'm closing down our membership site, Maximum Leverage, and we're holding a contest. And it's the simplest contest in the world. If you've had any sort of a breakthrough from maybe something you might have got from me in terms of marketing or life or business, if you just shoot a video and share that as a gift, a going away gift for what we're doing, you're going to get a $20 Amazon gift card, and there's lots more stuff you can win. All the details are just on my website at daegansmith.com, D-A-E-G-A-N Smith, S-M-I-T-H.com. And all I want you to do is share your story with me. I taught you this stuff, so share your story with me. And I got a gift for you. Fair enough? Thank you guys for your time.